Hello there. You are onto the M2M session podcast. We raise kings to embrace their masculinity and amplify their influence in the society. Welcome. The M2M session podcast is about to begin.
Okay, good morning. My name is Itoro, Ukpong, and I'm glad to be with you guys at this conference talking about my marriage and basically dropping an advice for every single man or married man out there. So I've been asked when and how I met my wife. I met her in 2018 on social media. Interesting, on social media. So I didn't follow the cliche met her in church. But I met her on social media. We got chatting in 2020, and I discovered she's a very amazing human being. And, we got to, meet ourselves physically in 2020. And yeah, we're now married. Another question I'm being asked is, how have I been able to manage my relationship with in-laws? Wow. My relationship with my in-laws have been beautiful. I think to a great degree, you just have to have an understanding of everyone, every human being. And when you have an understanding of every human being, you know how best to relate with them. As an individual, I took out some time to understand the personalities of my in-laws, and that has served as a great guide to how I relate with them. So if you're married and you're having issues with your in-laws, I think you should just take a step back, try to understand them, and based on your understanding, you build a relationship with them. Nobody's difficult. Everyone is difficult to anyone that doesn't understand them. So just build understanding, and I believe you'll have a smooth relationship with them. Okay, as regards conflicts, the question is asking if I've had conflicts with my in-laws. I've not really had any conflict with them. I think I and my wife have a system we've put in place that avoid those kind of things that happen, that keep those kind of things from happening. There's some things that would need me to interface with my in-laws, and if I feel it's something that can bring conflict, my partner handles it, and vice versa. If it's something on my end that might bring conflict between my wife and her in-laws, which are my extended family, I handle it. So we've never really come to a place where we have to handle conflict, because we know how to manage those settings as a couple. How can men be financially ready for marriage? Well, I think the most important thing as regards being financially ready for marriage is that you should have a job. You should have a job. If you don't have a job, you should have a business that is bringing in a steady income. It doesn't have to be all the money in the world, but it should be an amount of money that can take care of yourself, a lady. Personally, I would say yourself, a lady, and a child. So you work hard as a man and build yourself to that point where you have a sustainable income that can bring you to that point. It doesn't have to be millions. It just has to be an amount that can sustain a family. And as an individual, you also would have to learn how to cut costs, how to live at your level. Don't give in to the pressures of society, of how a wedding should be, or how a proposal should be. Just understand how much you make, know how to manage your finances. Most importantly, be with someone that can manage finances. Like my wife, she's a beautiful manager of finances, and she helped me a lot. So even if what I had at that time was not so much, she knew how to manage every resource to ensure that it catered to what we needed in the family. This question is actually very funny. It's talking about the fact that some men demand respect from their wives, and is it okay for a man to demand respect from his wife? Yes, men love respect. Every man wants to be respected. Every man wants to be respected by his wife, by his family, but you don't demand respect. You earn respect. And how do you earn respect? By playing that leadership role, by being the what do you call it, the provider, by being an example. You do your best as an individual to make sure that you look out for everyone, and in that you get the respect from your wife, you get the respect from your family. You know, women can give respect, but they don't just give respect because you occupy a position. They give respect because you deserve that respect. You know, women look out for security, they look out for safety, they look out for love expressed. And if you give these things to them, friends, believe me, the respect that you think you should demand, you will get it in full and to overflow. So the whole thing about staying committed to your wife starts from when you're single. You know, as single men, you have to know how to be committed to yourself. You have to know how to be committed to the principles that you've given yourself to live by. You know, where a lot of us were ignorant of these things and got to learn it in the early years of our marriage. But it's important that you learn how to build principles and live by them. And in that process, you find out that even when you get into marriage, you stay committed to your wife. Also, the fear of God is important. You know, the love of God constrains us. So there are certain things we will want to do, but because of the love of God that we've built up within us, it constrains us to stay within the ambits and the guidelines that have been laid down for us as believers. How can you balance your career, you know, ministry life? Set priorities. God is most important. Family is next. Family comes before ministry. Family comes before work. So make sure your priorities are in place. And even if you make, you know, key priorities in place, it serves as a guide on how you manage your time. So don't say you're giving yourself to ministry. Don't say you're giving yourself to work and despising, and you end up despising your family. No, make time or create time for every aspect of your life. God gave us 24 hours. That's enough time to get everyone into, you know, into place. Well, they say marriage is a bed of roses. Yes. Now, okay, when people say marriage is a bed of roses, most times they make it look like it's all a fairy tale. Marriage is not necessarily a bed of roses, but it can be made a bed of roses. I hope you get what I mean. So it takes determinations, it takes making that decision, consciously making that decision to have a beautiful marriage. You know, beautiful marriages don't just happen. People make an effort, people put some, you know, effort into it from knowledge that they've gained to ensure that that marriage is beautiful. So marriage is not just automatically a bed of roses, but marriage can be made a bed of roses by the effort or the input you put into that union to ensure that the best comes out of it. How can you raise children of good character? You know, this is for fathers and intending fathers. You know, we have Gen Zs, we have Gen Alphas, interesting set of people. Now, it's important for us to know that Gen Zs are not just interested in seeing you do what you do. They want to know why you do it. So you need to be patient enough to sit down, listen, understand the place they are coming from, and teach them and guide them in that light. It's not a generation that's just interested in what you say and not what you do, but you lead them by your lifestyle and not just what you say. So God, at the days of my generation, they'll probably just tell us what to do and we follow. No, these guys are looking out for your life. So this puts more responsibility on us to ensure that we live right. So when we say what is right, they will see the examples in our life and do what is right. That's the easiest way I believe it would be to raise a Gen Z or a Gen Alpha in this generation. Aside of financial provision for your family, as a man, you have to be physically there. You have to be there. It's not just enough to provide the money for feeding, for school fee, for clothing and all that. You have a part to play in the development of your child. You have a part to play in raising your child, and only your physical presence can achieve that. So, you know, we talked about priorities earlier on. It is important that you create time to always be there. Even if it puts like stress on you to stay up late at night to do other things, make time for your children anytime they are with you. You are a man, God has given you the grace and the strength to carry on the whole family. Jump into the strength, bask in it, and you will achieve all God has destined for you as regards raising your children and being physically present for them. You know, the Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Leaving an inheritance does not necessarily just talk about, you know, leaving money, leaving cars, living the good life. No, Leaving an inheritance as a good man talks about leaving godly principles, leaving godly characters for our children. So when the Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, he leaves a lifestyle whereby when these children grow up and are faced with temptations, faced with peer pressure, they stand by the principles that God had given or that God had instructed through the teachings of their father. The Bible says, follow those who through faith and patience obtain the promise. So your children should not just follow you, but they should follow you because you achieved all what you achieved through living a life that is full of a conviction of what God has, or living a life that is full of convictions of the life of God, and living a patient life in this conviction to ensure that you achieve the promises that God has destined for you. So those are my last words to you, friends. As a man, stand up to that responsibility, be the man God has destined you to be, and God will always be there to guide and help you. God bless you.